Welcome back to the Victor Gonzalez Show, and today we're going to be taking a look at the Jacksonville Jaguars offense. The Jacksonville Jaguars obviously haven't had the best seasons over the past couple years, with them having the #1 overall pick in the last 2 years' drafts. Now, last year's head coach, Urban Meyer, he was one of those guys that has taken the blame for that, with him being 2-11 in his first 13 games and him being fired due to the circumstances that he put himself in after a game against the Cincinnati Bengals. Now looking at who they brought in, that's Doug Pederson, the guy who's won a Super Bowl with the Philadelphia Eagles, where they had Carson Wentz, who was playing at an MVP level, Nick Foles, who put 41 points on a Bill Belichick-led defense, and also helped Alex Smith when he was in Kansas City. A guy who's been a quarterback guru, you could say, over his last 3 quarterbacks. Now looking at what can he do in Jacksonville. Well, obviously he's got Trevor Lawrence. But Trevor Lawrence wasn't the issue last year. It was the play selection, in my opinion. One of those reasons for that was that the Jacksonville Jaguars were 26th in amount of run plays called. Yet they were the 8th most efficient in when those run plays were called. Meaning they had the 8th most yards when those run plays were called. Now looking at their passing offense. They were 7th in the most passing plays called. Yet they had the 29th yards per pass. Meaning when Trevor Lawrence would throw the ball, out of all 32 teams, they were 29th. But they called the 7th most in the NFL. Now, can this be fixed? Obviously, very quickly. Trevor Lawrence, he's going to have an offensive mind in his ear in Doug Pederson, and he's also going to have a few more weapons around him. He's going to have James Robinson, who he had last year, and he's also going to gain a former teammate, Travis Etienne, a former teammate at Clemson, who for the first time in almost 3 years will play together. After Travis Etienne missed last year due to injuries, after being the first-round pick for the Jacksonville Jaguars, he is now going to be on the field for the first time in that Jacksonville blue with Trevor Lawrence. Now looking at your receivers, you've got Marvin Jones, you've got Christian Kirk, you've got Zay Jones and Laviska Shenault. Those are going to be your main 4, with Laquan Treadwell and Jamal Agnew. Jamal Agnew, who was actually a very good special teams returner last year as kick returner and punt returner. Now, Christian Kirk's contract is one of those that a lot of people looked at and rolled their eyes at or called it the highest overpay, and honestly, it looks that way. It's a 4-year, $72 million contract with up to 4 years, $84 million, and 37 of it being fully guaranteed. Now, that $84 million, it's through incentives, and an extra those $12 million from 72 to 84 will be through incentives. Now, Laviska Shenault has been in trade talks, and so is Marvin Jones, looking to unload since they are looking at reloading this Jaguars offense and getting younger assets. I think that this offense actually has good weapons around Trevor Lawrence, including their tight end Evan Ingram and Dan Arnold. Evan Ingram obviously can be a very good pass catcher. He's fast, and that's one of his stronger points. And when you have a guy like Trevor Lawrence, having speedsters who can create mismatches are a very good thing for a young quarterback. Dan Arnold can obviously come in and help you with your run blocking in run sets and allow Evan Ingram to get rest and be a third down pass catcher or something like that. Now looking at this O-line. This O-line was not top 1 in the NFL last year. It was 26th ranked by Pro Football Focus. Now what that means, or 24th. What did they do to change it? They brought in a new right guard who's actually would have been the best guard or at any position on their team last year, in Brandon Sheriff. He's coming from the Washington Commanders. He's been one of the best guards in football for quite a while, and although last year wasn't his best year, it does show that he can still be a very good guard. You have Cam Robinson at your left tackle. You have Tyler Shaintley or Ben Barch at your left guard. I think Ben Barch, he was actually rated higher by Pro Football Focus, and he's just one of those guys who you've seen he's gotten better and better throughout his career. And then you've got at center Luke Fortner. He was one of the best centers in this past year's draft, had an amazing year at Kentucky, and I think he can have a great impact on this O-line. Obviously, I've already said Brandon Sheriff at right guard. And then at right tackle, you have Jawan Taylor versus Walker Little. I would put Walker Little in. He actually played very well in the moments that he was allowed to play in last year. And his ability to be a good pass set guy would actually help out Trevor Lawrence a lot. Now looking at what is Doug Pederson going to do this offense? Obviously, it's going to change from Urban Meyer, where a lot of things were unorthodox and they were very college style. And now you're going to have a 2 backfield, one of those things Urban was going to try to build. Now you can have a rotation, where James Robinson can come in on first and second down, Travis Etienne comes in on third down, and maybe helps out on a first down here and there, and you're allowing Trevor Lawrence to always have a fresh guy in the backfield who can really scare a defense, or at least create the idea that he could be a pass catcher or a run guy, and keep them on their toes at all times, which makes it that much easier for the Jaguars to run the ball, play action, and allow Trevor Lawrence to not have to be the hero and play hero ball all day. Now, this offensive crew, I think it's actually one of the smarter things the Jacksonville Jaguars have done. I think Christian Kirk was an overpay, but when you are a rebuilding team, sometimes you do have to overpay, and it may set you back in a couple years, but in the long term, it will bring the Jacksonville Jaguars from the number 1 overall pick to maybe a team that's, fighting for a 15th pick, or at the end of the playoff hunt, or maybe somewhere in between there. Because one of the things the Jacksonville Jaguars have to do is they have to start selling out their crowds. They have to start creating a good business, and that's one of the things that the Jacksonville Jaguars really are focused on, and I think it's one of the things that they've achieved by this. You have Evan Ingram, a former first-round pick, Christian Kirk, a really good good receiver who was with Arizona last year, Marvin Jones, another guy who they had an outstanding year last year, and then you have Zay Jones, another former high pick, and now you have a former first-round pick coming back, and you have a lot of talent on this offense. Now it's going to come down to Trevor Lawrence, Doug Pederson, and this whole offense to come together and be cohesive to create something that can actually work and be well. And if that happens, I think Jacksonville should be satisfied with that for this upcoming season.